All right, so again, this is So You Want to Build a Big Fake Head. My name is Ava, or Radcat, and we're gonna learn the process of building a big mascot head. And I just wanna say during this panel, please feel free to stop me if you have a question, to clarify anything. I do better when people respond to me, so. Despite me being up here, I kind of get shy talking to big crowds, so, so bear with me. But yes, so like I said, my name is Ava, or Radcat. Did I hear a knock? I hope it's not locked. Was the door locked or was it just closed? Okay, I'm sure. It was locked. Uh-oh.
You could just put a chair.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think he's looking at it. Okay. Because I'm like, I don't want it to be locked. Maybe we do just have to leave it open. Okay, that's fine. I'll just talk super loud. Let me know if you need me to repeat anything. I can also switch to the microphone if needed. Doesn't matter. But anyway, yes, so we're gonna learn about the process of building a big fake head. So my credentials, why I can talk about this. So I've been a cosplayer for 10 plus years. I'm also a professional mascot maker. I've been working with my current studio for about 3 years now. And in that time, I've made about 60 plus heads. Oh, I also wanted to call out super quick. My presentation is doing this really weird thing where it's showing the bottom portion of the next slide. So sorry about that. Please just ignore what's going on under there. But yeah, so these are some of my favorite mascots I've gotten to work on over the years. That guy in the middle, that's Snoop Dogg. I don't know if anyone here knew that Snoop Dogg had a kids show, but he does. That is the character that he voices. That's Bow Wizzle. So that was one of my favorite ones that I got to work on. Also, anyone from the South might know the grocery store Publix. Any Publix fans? I hear some nodding. Yes, that's Play-Doh. I don't know if you knew that Publix had a mascot, but that's Play-Doh, the Publixsaurus. There's 51 of him in existence. So, so lots and lots of mascot building. But yeah, so I've been doing this for so long, and I've just noticed that when it comes to building large heads, large masks, that's often like a really intimidating process for new cosplayers. So having done it so much and for so long, I just wanted to share my knowledge to hopefully like demystify this for everyone and, you know, give like new people a place, like a jumping off point, and also hopefully give experienced builders, you know, new techniques to try out, perhaps even like better techniques. So in this panel, we are specifically going to be talking about mascot style head building. Mascot heads versus furry heads are different. It's kind of like a broad generalization, but they do generally have different construction techniques and different priorities. Fursuits tend to be built for comfort. They are about experiencing being that character. Again, just kind of broad generalizations, but they tend to be very close fit. Don't turn off, don't do that. Hello, okay, sure. Meanwhile, mascots tend to be built more for performance. Most of the mascots that I'm building, they have to be able to do flips. They are, you know, they're out in the sun for like 8 hours on a field. Some of them have to dunk, some of them have to ice skate. They are built with all of that in mind for the person inside to be able to maximize what they are putting out for everyone else and for the safety of the performer. So I just wanted to say that in this panel, we are specifically talking about mascot style heads. However, I do think that both mascots and furries, both of these different building techniques, I think that we all should be holding hands. I think both have pros and cons to each, and I think that we should be borrowing from each other more, because I think that between the two build styles, we can build the optimal head. Max comfort, max performance, max character accuracy. Also just wanted to point out since we're in Wisconsin, any Bango fans here? No, I knew that. Woo, yeah.
The only one I never got to work on because he's not
Really?
by Olympus.
Oh, totally, yes. I was like, he is a Chicago mascots build. I knew that was a long shot, though. I know that I am at an anime con. I, too, am not a sports person, despite my job. So, but just wanted, I was like, I know, that's one of our fave Wisconsin guys. Also Bucky Beaver. He's not a beaver, my God. Bucky Badger. We love Bucky Badger. Yes, love him.
Bernie Brewer.
Say again?
Bernie Brewer.
Oh, yes, Bernie Brewer, yes. We love our Wisconsin mascots. Oh, yes, I know them too, yes. They've come in a few times. Okay, so let's start our build process. I'm gonna walk through what my own process is, kind of a step-by-step guide that I hope will kind of like make this, what might seem like a very intimidating project, more like bite-sized, give you a place, like steps you can follow to make it less intimidating. So the first question we're gonna ask ourselves is, what material should we be using? There are two main things that influence this, which is how big of a structure are you building and what are you gonna be covering this thing in? So if you're a furry, probably gonna be using fur. Let's say if you are building like a suit of armor, you're probably gonna be using EVA foam and painting it. All of these things influence like your material choice. So my favorite materials to use, and we're gonna talk about the pros and cons and how they answer these questions on our next slides here, but my favorite to use are upholstery foam and EVA foam, which, you know, classic. We're at a cosplay con, you know, everyone uses those. I use this for almost every project, and most professional mascots out there are these days using EVA foam or a similar type of foam. Older mascot heads used to be built using things like fiberglass, metal, plastic, things that just straight up kind of suck to wear. Like, so there is like a real conscious effort to make them safer and comfier. So they're actually listening to like the cosplay community in terms of picking up these materials because they see us using them so often, which is really cool. Kind of a way that like we're influencing them, they're influencing us. A really neat thing. Of course, there are other options, which is, of course, you know, are your wire, your cardboard, paper mache, anything you could build a big shape out of, someone's made a head out of it. I will say that these other options are not my favorite, so I'm not really going to touch on them. I'm trying to convey building like professional quality, comfiest quality for you. And I find that these other options sometimes just don't quite meet those, even though I've seen really amazing things built with them. Not to dunk on those at all. They're really great work done with those. But yes, first, upholstery foam. These are some projects that I've worked on myself. I just love upholstery foam. It's one of the best materials. And there's so many reasons for that. You know, it's lightweight, it's soft, and this is something to really consider when you're building a head. The fact that it is so soft, it means that you're not hurting yourself and you're not hurting others. So for example, that large head, the green one, if anyone's familiar with Katamari Damacy, the first slide on this, that was the base for that head. And I really wanted that one to be upholstery foam as opposed to, I've seen people use like cardboard tubes for it or EVA foam. I just wanted to make sure that if I like bopped my head into someone, they're just getting hit with a pillow. They're fine. And in the same way that if I'm running my head into something, suddenly this impact is a lot softer because I don't have the force that I'm being hit with something hard. It just, you know, it's like a crumple zone basically. Other pros for upholstery foam, super easy to work with. I would say it is by far the most beginner-friendly material because it is so forgiving. You can cut it with scissors, you can cut it with a box cutter. Just very easy to manipulate, to carve. If you make mistakes, you can walk it back super easily. It can also be covered in most materials. So if you're covering it with fleece, with fur, with minky, with vinyl, anything you can sew, you can cover upholstery foam with. So very versatile. Of course, it does have its cons, which is it does have a limited size. And this is what I mean by how big of a shape are you building. There is a max size of upholstery foam you can build before this will kind of start to collapse in on itself. So like this, my Prince head here, this green one, I would say is about the max size you can get before you have to start thinking of structural interiors so that your head kind of isn't just like one side's like falling in throughout the day. And yeah, in that same vein, it can also lose its shape over time. So if you were building something for longevity, maybe not the choice for you, because you know, over time, it's the same material we make our couch cushions out of. With more use, it's gonna get worn down, it's gonna compress. So things to think about. It is also hot. It absorbs sweat like crazy. I know we have furries in the audience, any fursuiter knows this. Was that a question or just an acknowledgement? Yes. But yeah, you're gonna be sweating in these things. So best to think about how you're gonna be lining it, how you're gonna be cleaning it if this is the material that you're using. Next up, EVA foam. I feel like I don't even have to say that much about this because it is so ubiquitous in the cosplay community now, but still, really great things about it. It is also lightweight, but you can build really big with EVA foam. That's how we get these giant armor builds that we're seeing. That's where we get a lot of these big mascots from, is because you can build big with structural integrity. So that is super handy. And unlike EVA foam, generally it won't lose its shape as much over time. So again, you can build for longevity with these things. I've had mascot heads come in that have been doing just fine for like 10 plus years, as long as the performer is of course treating it nicely. Some of them don't. some of them treat them like they're not a several $1,000 item, and I'm like, okay. Other really great thing about it is it can be covered in any material, but big plus side, you can also prime and paint it. So if sewing's not your thing, you can paint. EVA foam can be covered in, if you prime it, paint it, like clay. There's now like EVA clay foam out there. You can build really complex shapes with it. Super cool. Oh, and it can also be heat formed. That is such a handy thing about it. With upholstery foam, you do kind of have to think about how you are building these shapes up. You have to make those curves yourself by using darts, by using seams. EVA foam, you can just heat form into a lovely, nice curve. Really great for like mask making. Of course, it does have some cons. For me, the biggest one is that as you go up in size, you are going to require stronger glues, which means that this is a slightly less accessible material. Upholstery foam, hot glue, whatever. You can assemble that super easily in your house. You don't have to worry about toxicity. As long as you have an outlet. But this, with EVA foam, you have to start thinking about wearing proper PPE, wearing gloves, working in a properly ventilated area, dry times. We don't want cancer. So, so things to think about when working with this. It also does require sanding, which again, if you're going to be painting it, again, you are now introducing that you need like special safety gear. You don't want this like dust around your house. Take that very seriously. I do impart that on you guys. I myself have found myself being like lightheaded even when I'm trying to work in a ventilated space. So take your masking, your gloves, all of that very seriously when working with these materials. It is also not as breathable. So here is just a thing I want to touch on. This guy in the upper left corner, that's a dragon, and without all of his features on yet. But you can see he's got these kind of like weird polka dots on him, and those are actually holes that we drilled in the head. Yeah, you know. These are...
ABS.
Yes.
You still do a lot of ABS.
Totally.
Yeah, some of them you still drill.
You gotta drill the holes, yeah. And that is to vent off heat for the performer. Even if it's getting covered with a material, it just gives space for like moisture to go out through the day. So I do kind of encourage, even for like your cosplays, even if you're not gonna be like dunking for 8 hours, like still consider ways to vent off heat. A lot of them will also have things like, oh, I didn't even pack it. I should have packed it today. I normally have a neck fan, so a lot of them have a neck fan. Again, just giving ways for the air to escape. Keep it breezy, keep it flowing.
Oh, about fans?
Yeah.
What I found is some people try and put like one fan in, and we've gotten ones in, mainly like the birds that come down.
Yeah.
We realized if you put 2 fans in, small one fan blowing up at you, the other one blowing out.
Yes, get all that out of there.
Airflow, because just one and blowing onto a helmet, it's not doing the thing, it's making noise.
Absolutely.
And wasting batteries.
Totally. Is it she, by the way? She, her pronouns?
What was it?
What your pronouns?
Oh, I'm whatever you feel.
Okay, I was gonna say she is also a mascot maker, so as we got to
That's a refurbishing technician.
yes, we love it. At competing companies too, so we're actually rivals. Yeah. I see a question.
Yeah. Does heat forming require a heat gun?
Not necessarily. I would say, some hair dryers can get pretty hot, so they can do a good job. I will say a heat gun will probably do a better job, but you don't necessarily have to do that. The one thing I do want to say about that though is EVA foam is toxic when you heat it up. So do also wear safety gear when you do that. It's something good to keep in mind. So maybe don't do that in your house too, unless you got some good ventilation, a window open, even with a hair dryer. So definitely consider that. Next up, this is a material I just want to touch on super quickly. Oh, I see a question in the back here.
Yeah, just a really quick question about the heat of EVA foam.
Yeah.
Do you know at what temperature it actually becomes toxic?
That's actually a really good question, and I don't know.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I should have a temperature in mind for that.
I think once it started.
Once it's bending, yeah. I would say
Yes.
I generally, like, if I'm heating it up at all, I'm just wearing my mask. So I don't have a set temperature for that, but yeah, I think if it is bending with heat at all, have your gear on. One more material I just want to touch on super quickly. It's not my favorite, but I've seen really great stuff done with it. It's chicken wire. Chicken wire, the great things about it is you can build very large, very easily. Excuse me. So you can build these insane, huge shapes with it out of this material. I've seen one of my favorite cosplayers. She does the grandma from Dan to Dan. And it's like, she's the cat, and she's like, she like towers over me. She got this huge head out of this chicken wire shape. Super cool. She's actually the one who lent me my camera for this, so very nice. But it's also relatively affordable, so you can pick this up at most stores. It's just not my favorite, and it's because I wanted to like bring this up because this is a big thing we're talking about here, which is designing for safety for yourself and for others. And chicken wire is something that I feel is dangerous to everyone in the room. If you are working with this and you bump into someone, suddenly you're dealing with metal that's coming towards you and out to who you bumped into. So you're dealing with potentially cutting yourself, cutting others, ruining your beautiful cosplay that you worked so hard on. So I just want to say with like materials like this, they might seem like a better option. But anything you can do with these, you can do with materials like upholstery foam, EVA foam generally. So it's like to encourage these materials that I just feel like are safer to work with. What's up?
So in some bird suits, they have like the hinge jaws so that it can move when you talk.
Yeah.
Some of them contain like metal screw or even plastic that can break.
Yeah.
What would be the best material to like cover that so that even if it does break in use, it doesn't like pierce my face?
Sure, yeah. In a lot of these heads that we build, they come in with metal. We'll just end up... Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm just staff, so I'm just.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Really hard to hear back by the.
Yeah, actually, we were trying to shut the door, but it locked. So I'm not sure if it's better to leave it open or...
So people can keep coming because if the
Okay.
door's closed, people won't want to come in. I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine. I appreciate it. Can everyone hear okay? Is this on?
I don't think that's on. I don't know.
Hello?
You're projecting quite well.
Sounds like
Okay.
You are projecting well, it's just that door's.
It's a little
really
tricky.
loud.
Totally. Well, also, can everyone, can you hear me?
I don't even know if that's.
I was like, it was
It sounds
on.
exactly the same. I'll go talk to like whoever I have to talk to. 'Cause
Oh, wait. Hello?
There you go.
Okay.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine. I appreciate it.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm just-
Nope, no worries at all.
I'm just trying to make sure everyone can hear it.
Thank you.
I can't block out the noise.
But yes, kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. I think I said what I wanted to say about this. Just we design. Oh, I was answering your question. Yes, of course. I was talking about what we are covering this in for safety. The heads that we build when we get metal in, we will often just cover them, any like sharp metal bits, with a really stiff canvas. This generally keeps things covered, and we'll also seal it with even something as simple as like hot glue, like putting that canvas over it, douse it in hot glue. It just creates a barrier against these things. For a lot of these jaws that are moving too, I'll back it up for a second. This dragon here that doesn't really look like a dragon, the top left, his jaw is actually just attached with elastic. So his jaw is free hanging, and that's because that particular character felt very strongly. His whole gimmick is that he bites children on the head. So it was really important for that performer to be able to like wrench open his jaw. It has to fit a child's head in there. That was key to him. And this, again, is what we're talking about with safety. How do you bite a child's head in a way that's not going to accidentally hurt them? So no metal in the jaw, all soft. You can see he's got on his lip. He actually has a soft upholstery foam ring around it just to create cushion. It's kind of a bad idea in general, I think, to bite children on the head, but here's how we can do it safely. But yes. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so now we have talked about our material choices. It is time to start patterning. I believe that you can make almost any head shape using a few very simple shapes. I'm going to show you my 3 most commonly used head patterns. I think that you can do anything using these as a jumping off point. I think in all my time building heads, I don't think I've ever done something that didn't use at least one of these in some capacity. So our first most basic shape is the sphere. If anyone's familiar with the game Peak, I know that's having a moment right now. Lots of Peak cosplayers having to learn how to make perfectly spherical heads. So you can make any sphere using, this is kind of like what one part of it looks like. On the far left is a gore. Cutting that out of just cutting out, I would say, like between 6 and 8 of those, depending on the size of the head that you want, gluing them together in such a fashion, then you end up with a beautiful sphere. And how you can use this as a jumping off point. This is actually a baseball. He's got a baseball head, and he has a baseball cap on. His baseball cap is also just a sphere that I cut in half. So ways we can alter things. Next up is what I call the half pill. I use this so often. It is like the most versatile skull shape that's out there. And part of the reason I use it so much is because it's so easy. The very top image is what it would look like laid out flat. So you really only have to glue those top darts. And then of course your one final seam at the back. But it saves you so much time on assembling seams versus this guy, you have to glue every single one of those edges together. So just a super versatile shape. This guy also kind of demonstrates where you can go with that. So this is a beaver, and you can see, he's got this very simple, just basic shape. By putting some upholstery foam cheeks on him, suddenly he's a whole guy. It's literally just upholstery foam that I glued to his face, kind of carved down into a rounder shape as I wanted. And then he also has upholstery foam ears glued on. And I know there's a lot more things going on there before he looks like a whole guy, but just like ways you can jump, use this as a jumping off point. Next is what I call the light bulb. This is great for any character that needs to be a little bit more human in their appearance. If you happen to recognize this character at all, one, I love you, it's my favorite game. Two, you know why it's important that he's, why it's important that he has a little bit of human in him still. But yes, this light bulb shape gives you this really excellent rounded curve to the skull. Because we as humans, we're not just stick straight, we have kind of like a bulbous back of the head. And then I could create this whole character just by having that basic skull shape, and then he literally just has two triangles glued to the front of his head. Now he's got a beak, or a snout, or whatever you want that to be. Okay, and how we can alter these things. So I've taken what I call, the half pill. Now it's a full pill. I just took it, mirrored it to the other side, and now I have a whole new shape that is correct for this character. So just ways that you can think about this patterning, how you can use these as like a jumping off point. I know that probably for some people this comes very easily. For me, the patterning is what took me the longest to click. Sometimes I have a hard time translating a flat shape up into a 3D shape. I actually tend to work more sculpturally. My brain works in take block, carve down into something. So this is just another way of thinking about shape building. And the reason that this is often used for professional mascots as opposed to the carving method is, again, we just want to create shapes that are as lightweight as possible. We want things hollow. We want as little going on in there for breathability and just keeping weight off the performer's neck. All right, now we have, we've chosen our materials, we've cut out our shapes. How are we getting this thing to stick together? We have many options, but I want to take this moment to go on a brief rant, if you will allow me to. I want to talk about hot glue. And I just want to say that I love hot glue so much. And I don't know if this discourse has reached you guys. I heard some people in the audience. There's this whole thing about hot glue and how it's unprofessional and if people shouldn't be charging money for commissions if they include hot glue at all. And I'm here to tell you, I am a professional. I have worked on mascots that have cost $25,000. What material is it assembled with? It's hot glue. It's all hot glue all the way down. So I'm just telling you, don't listen to those people. That's my little rant. I'm sorry. I love hot glue, and I don't agree with this anti-hot glue propaganda. Of course, there is something to be said for how well applied is your hot glue. There is, a consideration for, cleanliness, application of the glue, but it being hot glue does not inherently rule it out as professional. Thank you. But yeah, so why do I love hot glue so much? It's non-toxic. You can use hot glue almost anywhere as long as you have an outlet and you can get your hands on a hot glue gun. They dollar store, I've gotten them for like $4. Very, very easy, very accessible. I think this is part of the reason where that discourse comes from is because it is so accessible to people. And so, yeah, I don't know. Just because it can be used by anyone at any skill level doesn't mean it's not a great resource. Of course, it does still kind of have its cons, which, it's hot. I'm sure we've all had our hot glue gun burns. Just be wary of that. Don't leave it plugged in. Don't burn your house down. And then, of course, there is a size limit on what you can glue with it as your shapes get bigger. Definitely be mindful that you're going to have to start using stronger glues. But generally, if you're using upholstery foam, you can do hot glue for the whole project. All of my mascot heads I've built, their final cover is applied with hot glue. So it is great. The other two glues that I love the most in all of my projects is contact cement and E6000. And they basically kind of have the same pros and cons for both of them-ish. So I'll just run through them super quickly, but they're both super strong. They are great for assembling your EVA foam for your big shapes. However, they are both toxic, so you're gonna have to wear the proper safety gear again. I'm gonna keep pressing on that because I know there are people who they don't care. They're like, I'm gluing for like 30 seconds, it doesn't matter. It does matter. The glue, it's all the same to the brain. Whether it's 30 seconds or an hour, it's bad for you. Yes. One thing I do love about E6000 does dry clear. So something to consider about for your final assembly. Contact cement generally dries yellow. So if you are going to be putting this on something that will be visible, for your contact cement, you're gonna have to think a little bit more strategically, perhaps even more careful application so that yellow is not visible. And also just a little side note, I love E6000, but I do think the application kind of sucks. Yeah, the little squeezy tube just kind of is obnoxious to me versus I don't know if you're familiar. E6000 tends to come in this little squeezy tube. You have to screw the cap off. Versus contact cement tends to come in like a paint bucket that you can brush on. So you can get really fine control with that contact cement and how you're applying it. And this in the corner is a video that is not gonna work, unfortunately. It's just me gluing in my backyard, so. Picture quick assembly. I'm using contact cement. I got all my safety gear on too. All right, let's talk about vision. If there is nothing else that you take away from this panel, I hope that you take away vision. This is the most important thing, and I think we all need to be prioritizing it more. So I would like to do a test with everyone real quick. If everyone would please raise their hand with 3 fingers. Everyone, a volunteer's tribute. Yes, excellent. Take your 3 fingers and hold them directly in front of your face, right in the middle of your eyes. This is the max amount of distance you can have your eyes apart before you start to sacrifice vision. So if you were building a head and you were going to be looking out of your eyes, this is the max amount your eyes can be apart from each other before suddenly you're not seeing as well. You're creating a bigger and bigger blind spot as you take up space there. So this is an excellent rule of thumb when designing such mascots because you can put things here. You will hardly even know that there is something in front of your face there. This is something to really think about too. I find that I find that furries, whom I love with all my heart, but I find that they often put eyes very far apart, and they're just willing to go the whole con, not seeing a thing, just walking around like, don't you want to be able to see who you're talking to? And I know that this is a commitment to character accuracy, of course, but my job is to build things with character accuracy, so I'm here to tell you how you can put vision in things that you can see perfectly and still maintain your character accuracy. So 3 main places to hide vision are, of course, the eyes, mouth, and nose, but there are so many possibilities out there. So I'm going to show you a bunch of examples of these, but before we do go through each of these examples, I want to talk about the material choices because I think this will influence kind of how you see these examples that we're going to talk about. So most commonly used for mascots, at least the ones that I build, are for a vision material is perforated plastic. The shop that I work for actually has a proprietary plastic that we order. However, there are lots of accessible options that you can pick up at any craft store. The one that I will use in my personal projects a lot, if I can't kind of take some from my shop sometimes, is cross-stitch mesh. Cross-stitch mesh. That is something that can be picked up at almost any craft store. And the beauty of it is you can look out of it, but you can also put your own design on it. So for example, if you're going to be putting this in a mouth, if your character doesn't need to have just like a solid black mouth, you could paint on, for example, like a little uvula shape, like the back of a mouth, even a tongue, even teeth. You can do so many designs on it just by, you sand it down, paint it, endless possibilities. Next up, one of my favorites is black mesh or black interfacing. This is a great material to be glued into eyes if your character, for black pupils, if the entire character's eyes are black. It's the best. I use it all the time because you can see out, but people can't see you. So really great if you have to cover a large area. Also is trampoline mesh. Trampoline mesh gets used in a lot of, sorry, I realize I'm talking with the mic loud now. Trampoline mesh gets used for a lot of professional mascots because it is structural. The mesh will kind of wrinkle over time. Trampoline mesh will hold its shape. A little bit more expensive, kind of harder to get your hands on, but still a great option that's out there. What's up?
Where does someone buy triangular mesh?
I have gotten it from Home Depot. And this is why I'm like, I know it is not the most accessible option because they do come in large rolls, but I just wanted to put it out there. I've seen places like there are like maker spaces that will invest in a roll for the whole space. So people can like buy chunks of it or just use chunks of it. So if you can find spaces like that, that tends to make it a little bit more accessible.
Do you think you can also find them on Amazon possibly?
Probably. You know, I haven't looked there myself, but you can find anything there.
The other one, where does someone get that?
Which one?
One right before it.
The black interfacing.
Yeah.
Yes, that one. I used to get it from our dearly departed Joanne's. I miss her so much. I would go there and buy a roll. Oh my gosh. That one, also online retailers, Amazon I know will definitely have some. I know Michael's is picking up some fabrics, so they'll have some. I personally do not like Hobby Lobby, but I know that is for some people that is the only option they have, so I know that they will carry that too. So yeah, and all that to say, any place that sells fabric, you will find black mesh there. And then our final option is just clear vinyl or clear plastic. This is a great option because, again, you can paint it. So if you're making eyes, you can paint on. If you need like really detailed irises, like they have a really unique pattern in them, you can back paint the plastic, so that way you get this lovely sheen to it. You just have to think strategically about where you're placing your paint so that you don't completely blank out all of your vision. But yeah, so these are the main materials that I use in building heads. I think they're all really, really wonderful options. So let's talk about our examples now. Where are we putting these things? Again, our most common placement is eye vision, mouth vision, nose vision. These guys on the far left, obviously they just have black interfacing in their eyes. We're following, of course, the 3-finger rule there. So and those are both me in there, so I know, like, I am seeing very clearly when I am walking around the con. Then next up is mouth vision. The guy up top, he also just has black interfacing in his mouth because there wasn't really any designs that needed to be in there. Can keep it pretty simple. But this guy on the bottom is a great example of what you can do with that perforated plastic. So his mouth there is actually, it's that perforated plastic that I sanded, spray painted white, and then painted on just a cute little cartoonish tooth smiley detail. And then he does have plastic teeth glued in front of that, but those teeth are exactly this distance. So you can put that head on, you would never know there's teeth there. It's amazing. I've had that one in the shop a couple times. We all have to take turns wearing him. He was one of my first builds, so everyone was, the magic of the disappearing shapes there. And then next up, one that I think people don't consider enough, nose vision. Sometimes your performer, their face just falls directly in the middle of a character's head. So the best place to place vision is the nose. So both of these guys have a perforated plastic that I heat formed over a little mold to give them kind of like a rounded nose shape so that they're just looking out of their nose. So yeah, these are our most common options, pretty straightforward, but I think everyone should get weird with it. If these don't work for your character, there are other options. And so I just want to encourage you to consider that it doesn't have to just be the character's eyes that you're looking out of. So for example, this guy on the bottom left, he's a robot. And our initial builds of him, we were considering just having his eyes being the vision. You know, they're not too far apart, that'd be fine. But then I realized he's a robot. He's supposed to be having the illusion of some sort of LCD screen. I'm not a technology person, so I didn't have the ability to make a real LCD screen, so we had to make a little trick. So then I realized, what if his whole face was the plastic? So it is itself a different texture than the rest of the head. And then we spray paint all of his features on that. So now his entire face is vision. So that performer probably has the best vision of any head I've ever built. It's all vision. What's up? Oh, did it die? That's okay. It was an experiment anyway. Did the battery die?
Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got part of it. That's all that matters. But yes, so he's a great example of that. His mouth is also, I wouldn't say vision because the performer's not seeing out of it. However, it is also a perforated mesh, so that performer has great, airflow coming in through his face all over. The next guy in the middle, that is bridge of nose vision. And I put this example up there because I think it's done poorly, but I think that makes it very clear what's going on with him. That's a bison, and that performer, he just has a not clear, a perforated plastic in the bridge of his nose that he is looking out of. That would not have been my first choice design-wise, but sometimes I just have to commit to what the client wants, you know. Yeah, they're always right, so could have done that a little bit better. But anyway, I think the concept there is what's so important. So for example, if you are a fursuiter and you want to build a cute little bunny, bunnies often have eyes that are very far apart. So you don't want to sacrifice your character accuracy. Maybe your bunny has a super cute little like white detail above their cute little pink nose. That nose panel could be vision, could be like a white mesh, could be a perforated plastic, and could be integrated a lot better than this. This is not blending in well because it is just too, you know, he's brown all over, so why would there be a different color right on his nose? So, but things to think about. Next up is neck vision. This one's pretty rarely used, but I love neck vision. This dog here, her name's Chelsea, and it's not quite clear from this picture, but she's like 8 feet tall. She's like a ridiculously tall dog, and that's because this performer, the entire head is not here, it's here. She's actually wearing a helmet on top of her head and has raised shoulders to give her the appearance of being much taller. And then she is looking through a basically like a fur neck that we've put a mesh into and then glued little pieces of fur to it, so you would hardly know that there's vision there. This is a really great thing to consider if your character is tall and you're trying to commit more to like character accuracy there. You can build in tallness without having to wear like stilts or something. You can have that here. It's just more of a shoulder illusion at that point. Next up, this one's not super practical, but this is icing vision. And again, just kind of thinking about where your vision has to go for safety. So we got these designs in, and for whatever reason, they put the face smack dab in the middle of the body. And so like, what are we supposed to do with that? There's nowhere great, you know, ideally I'd love to have the face higher, to put the vision right through the mouth, right through the eyes, but we had to work with this character design. So we said, where can vision go? So we had, we added these icing lines all over it and then put vision right in there, which I know is very obvious in this picture, I'm sure, but all he had to do was run across a field. So, would hardly notice it. I also noticed that they filmed commercials with this one. They did Photoshop out the vision screen, which I thought was really funny. Because I saw the commercial and I was like, wow, they look different. Oh. But yes, just things to think about, that your vision can go anywhere. There are really creative ways to integrate it, and I just don't sacrifice your vision. You know, you want to be able to see clearly throughout the day. This is especially important, so I'll get to you in 1 second.
Additional material is reticulated foam.
Reticulated foam.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Oh, yes.
Because I've worn one dog, but
Yes.
one of our clients, and yeah, it's got the mesh.
Mhm.
Protect, you know, true focus, in the mouth, but then the nose is that. The only problem is when you're going into the sun, there's so many different surfaces.
Yes.
But that's when you can look down, and that's why you have made instruments.
Yes, I've had many a head with that kind of foam come in. Very, very distinct. That's how, you know, it's funny, we can identify a lot of the different shops and their builds. I'm like, I know it's Olympus because of the nose.
And sometimes our noses are different.
Yes.
We looked up, what kind of shop is this? You know, again, you know,
Yeah, many of the mascot shops kind of have their own build style that they fall into. So I've gotten good at recognizing them based on their techniques that come in. But yeah, so all that to say, I just want to encourage you, you know, think about your vision. Don't sacrifice your vision. Oh yes, I remember what I was going to say now. That when I'm designing these for a performer, also often the rule of thumb is, could this performer interact with a child safely? Because many of them, that's what they're doing. They're there to take pictures with families. Could this performer walk up to a kid, you know, they're like this tall, could they do that without punching them across the room? Are they aware that there's a child here? And can we make it so that they are always aware? So I think that is a great rule of thumb if you're designing your vision. Would you punt a child if you couldn't see them? Think about that. All right. Now, we have this head, you know, we've assembled it, we can see out of it properly. How are you keeping this thing on? When it comes to professional builds, they're, you know, at least my shop, the method that we use most often is just straight up installing a helmet. Most common are a hockey or a skate helmet, and we literally just zip tie these into the head. This is really important because if you are wearing your character's head, you want your character to be responsive to you. So if you look to the right, you want your character to look to the right also. If your head is not connected to your head or it is not very flush to your head, you might look to the right and your character will kind of like, it just won't move with you. This is important for mascots when they are emoting, especially they are in the center of a court. They need big, expressive movements to reach the people in the back of the crowd. So helmets are really great at that because then they can also lock your vision into place. If you install your helmet properly, you can have it so that anytime you put your helmet on, you will always be lined up with your vision perfectly. This is great for if you happen to be looking out of, if you have two eyes, you kind of don't want your head to get rotated so you're only sort of looking out at one. This makes it so you're consistently looking out of both. Then my personal favorite method, I use this in a lot of my cosplays only because I just don't like having a helmet on my head all that much, just personal thing. But I will use an upholstery foam ring. So I'll literally take a strip of upholstery foam, size it to my head, glue that right into the top of the skull. So this gives me something that is like locked onto my head, but very comfy, but also keeps my head responsive to me. So any of the cosplays that I've called out that I said that like I made that, those all have an upholstery foam ring in there. Okay, now that our thing is on our head, we've done all the steps we can see out of it. Now let's cover it. I am going to say that this is going to be kind of a brief section because covering is kind of a whole panel into itself. It really comes down to sewing, and I think any seamstresses here, sewing is a very complex thing, and there's a lot that goes into that. But I can give you my kind of quick tips for covering skulls, for covering heads specifically, and how to make it easy on you. So when it comes to covering, try to think about what patterns you can just reuse. You don't necessarily have to make an entirely new pattern for your cover as opposed to your skull pattern. So this guy, for example, he's super easy, so of course I got to do this on him, but he's a seagull. He's literally just a sphere. I didn't have to take the time to make a new a new cover pattern for him because I could just take my skull pattern that I already had, cut the shapes out of it. And even when it came to areas around his beak, you can see here, this is literally just a continuation of the sphere that I just cut this beak shape out of. Saved a lot of time. Because when it comes to making these, I generally have between like 40 and 60 hours to get these things done. So you got to learn where you can cut corners. But then even when it comes to things like covering with fleece, which can be a little bit more complex, you generally want to be thinking about where you're hiding your seams. So my fleece covering method is I will literally take, let me back this up just a bit. So this snake here on the far left, you can see he is not as simple as just a sphere. He's got a lot more going on, so I couldn't just use my pattern. I had to do a little bit more. So my method is I will literally take a giant sheet of fleece. I will drape the sheet, I will take that sheet, put it over it, and then I will think about where I want my seams to be. I didn't want him to have like huge glaring obvious seams, so I tried to think strategically about putting them in his features. So he has a seam running around his cheek, and I will literally just pinch and pin the fabric, making it taut over the skull, and then cut away my excess. And because I wanted this guy to kind of be smoothed out, he was a little lumpy, a little too lumpy for one layer of fleece. So then I literally just glued that layer down. And also I could pull a pattern for my final one from that. So I know that's a little bit of a messy thing here. There is so much that goes into sewing a cover. But I could do a whole second panel on just how do you pattern covers for things. Patterning. I took like 2 years in college on how to pattern. So anyway, sorry that this couldn't be more in depth at this final portion. But yes, so that's pretty much the basics of building a head. Any questions? No? Okay, all right. Yes?
So for the phone ring, I do a whole bunch for like a big group and people are like all over the place.
Mhm.
Hypothetically, could I make it adjustable by making like a little clip thing, like a belt, and then have like on the phone ring? Would that hypothetically work in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. A big part of building these heads, there's many a mascot I've done that is for one person in particular, but a lot of these have to be worn by a ton of different people. Like the Publix, for example, that grocery store that makes the dinosaur, they just grab some teen, they just grab some guy, whatever, who's willing to make $50, put them in there. So all that to say, they do need, yes, adjustability. Very possible. I have done things like I will put in my upholstery foam ring and I will leave a section of it open so it's more like a C. And then on the side of the C, I will put elastic. So that leaves like an area that could stretch to accommodate like a larger head. It's a little hard to go smaller from there, but you could also just like safety pin it over to make it smaller. This creates just like a little bit of adjustability if you're not using a helmet. I was gonna say about that specific type of ring, and then also the helmets too. The ones we often use in these mascots, like I said, they have to be adjustable. So a lot of those helmets are built with adjustability in mind. So if you did want to use a helmet, a lot of them like can literally be like stretched this way or compressed this way. We specifically use in our shop, we use Bauer hockey helmets. I actually can't speak to the price of those off the top of my head, so I'm not sure how accessible they are. But we just pick ours up from like any sports store. But yes, just there's options out there. Yeah. Yes.
How do you deal with the neck area for like covering?
Oh, totally. So there are two approaches. Let's see if I have any good examples. This kind of sort of shows. This guy on the left, for example, how I would finish him is what we call a donut. And a donut is literally, this depends on what's going on with your neck and where your head sits. He sits very low on the shoulders, so there's very little neck visible actually. So I will literally just take a ring of fabric, like I will cut a circle, put that, and there you go, you got a donut. And so that finishes, that just kind of sucks it in to your neck. Nice finishing there. The other really popular option is what we call bib neck. And that is taking just, it's like, again, this kind of comes down to patterning, but the shape is kind of goes down and then up and over the shoulders. And so that creates covering here down. And with those, you do kind of want to think about like, is that going to be going under a shirt? Because it doesn't necessarily look nice always to have like, just like a raw edge here. Or maybe like your character is, let's say like a werewolf, and you do want to have like a fuzzy chest. So then that could be integrated into the design that you have your hair here. I don't know. Does that kind of help? Okay. If there are no other questions, and feel free to ask them at any time. I do have a little game we can play super quick if anyone's interested. This is called Where's the Vision? And this is a little test to see if you were listening, to see if you've gained knowledge from this presentation. All right, just go ahead and call it out if you think you know. Where's the vision? Mouth, absolutely, yes. This is how I know you were listening, because I said this. Yes, he is looking out of the mouth. Where's the vision? Frosting, yes. It's another one of those Pop-Tarts. He also has a special little integration there that it is not just the mesh in his head. Actually, all of the sprinkles on him too are a clear plastic that you can see out of. So it gives him just like, I mean, it's not great, but it definitely gave him a little bit of extra something. Because actually this particular Pop-Tart too, I don't know if you saw this, but he had like a whole stunt where he had to like descend into a giant toaster, and then, you should look this up if you haven't seen it. It's pretty great. Look up a Pop-Tart. It's called the Pop-Tart Bowl. He's like a living Pop-Tart, and then they eviscerate him. The team comes and eats him. Like, it sounds more brutal than it actually is, but I'm like, I know this Pop-Tart. I've worked with him for many a month. He's my friend, and they eat him? Unbelievable. Also, just want to say about that really weird choice, you'll notice that he is strawberry flavored. So he's got that little jammy mouth. And the giant Pop-Tart that they actually eat is also strawberry. And the team, like, just kind of in your mind's eye, picture that, ripping apart a strawberry flavored Pop-Tart. I just didn't think that was a great choice on live TV for me personally. Maybe should have gone with like grape, or is that even a Pop-Tart flavor? Maybe like a s'mores, I don't know. So something not red. Anyway, where's the vision? The nose, yes, I heard nose, excellent. Yes, he's looking out of his nose. He's actually a molded nose. I will just say this character's vision, terrible. This was one of those client told me what they really, really wanted, and I was like, well, there's better options out there. No. So he has a molded nose, and the only vision on that nose is his nostrils. He's only looking out of his nostrils. This is a character meant to interact with children, and he's not doing a good job of it. I'm just going to say that.
Is the head like is the snout that long?
Super long, yes. Actually, this is a great little test here. Looking at these, think about where that performer's head is in here if the eyes are looking out of the snout. How much head is on top of his head, how big this character is.
Would you put mesh on like the top of the roof so you can at least see the children?
And so I'm glad you brought this up because we did do that. We actually, an initial version of this head did not have that. They were really committed to their character accuracy here, where they were like, it'll look weird if the roof of his mouth is not like a dog's mouth. And we were like, but you're meant to interact with people. So they did come back, and yes, we did exactly that. We pulled out the roof of the mouth, had a black mesh at the top. So he's looking here, but also now has down vision. Where's the vision? Neck, yes, a great visual example. So he is mostly fur, but then he has that panel here, and it's mesh that just has brushed yarn attached to it to try to mimic his fur. You'd be surprised how well you can see out of it. This is one of my first ones that I did, and I was kind of, he's like a legacy character, so they had previous versions, and I was kind of hesitant on if the performer would actually be able to see anything. He can. All right, this is our last one. Where is the vision? Teeth, yes, teeth vision. He's teeth vision. I just want to say too, this character is 9 feet tall. He is ridiculous. Our Ronald McDonald there is actually standing on an apple crate to make him even slightly comparable to this awful rabbit. This is literally my first mascot I ever built at my job. I don't like him at all. I'm just gonna be mean. I don't know why they needed him to be so big, and I tried to talk them out of it. But again, just in your mind's eye, think about those teeth being where his face, that human's eyes are. Look at all that's going on huge. No need to be as big of a rabbit like that.
And the funny thing here is, there's an Olympus costume in there.
Really? What?
Ronald McDonald.
Is he an Olympus one? Really? Wow. But yeah, so that is the end of our presentation here. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. If you do have any questions, these are all my social, feel free to come ask me, but also feel free to message me anytime. I love helping people on their projects. This had to be a pretty broad overview of everything. So if there are any specific, or this didn't cover your character and how to do it, reach out anytime. I love to give tips.